Hello there and welcome
to the new channel.
Here to help you see
the new you.
My name is Carmine Ortega.
Dennis Calamba.
This is Nato Agbayani.
My name is Juan Lu.
I'm Chino.
I'm Trisha.
This is Apple Manansada.
This is Attorney Carlo Ibanez.
This is Attorney Sheila Santiago.
This is Angie.
This is Argamid.
My name is Dante Salama.
This is Jesse Francis Rebustillo.
I'm Dania Cunha.
Mon Mendoza.
I am Mopet Erhino.
I'm Leo Bryan.
Mike.
Nice one, dear.
Sir Al Ian Barcelona.
Marvin Salazar.
This is Sunny Haldons.
Heidi Lumainos.
This is Ivan Jude.
Patrick Hieronimo.
Alan Perez.
My name is Erwin Ursua.
Mine is Bob.
My name is Lloyd Luna and this is
Future.
The Talk.
Family Business.
The Puppet Stories.
After Shift.
PNC Town Hall.
YOLO.
Marketplace.
The Home Buyer.
HR Hotline.
Danny Art Show.
Hotline.
Foreign Affairs.
COVID Stories. Awesome Day Show.
Thank you.
Money and more.
Cybernext.
Women at Work.
Win Within.
Port Project.
The Big Picture.
Sometimes life lets you down and you feel that you are done. You just wanna mourn and run because the fun is all gone. But sometimes life makes you proud when you look far and wide, when you leave the pain behind and see the brighter side. TNC gives you inspiration. TNC reignites your passion. TNC starts your transformation. TNC helps you see the new you. Sometimes life makes you blind and you choose something bad. You just wanna cry and hide and save your face from the crowd. But sometimes life makes you see the beauty in you and me. When you look up above, there is God and there is love. TNC gives you inspiration. TNC reignites your passion. TNC starts your transformation. TNC helps you see the new. We're here to help you see the newness of life. We're here to help you feel your hope is so real. You got the power to see. We'll help you see the new you. TNC gives you inspiration. TNC reignites your passion. TNC starts your transformation. TNC helps you see the new you.
The new channel. The new channel.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following show are those of the hosts, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon. Magandang hapon. Welcome to the new channel. Here to help you see the new you. This is Jesse Francis Rebustillo, your host of this wonderful program, HR Hotline. Good afternoon again. I have to fix this. There is a static in my microphone, and it seems that there is a red projection. Anyway, um, last time we discussed about nationalism and patriotism, but we were not really able to discuss it extensively, which is why we have our second take on the topic. And it is needed most. Nationalism, patriotism is beyond singing the national anthem. It's even beyond wearing your barong polo. Patriotism is needed most now that we are in a pandemic. Now that there are series of super typhoons, what will be our response? I mentioned a week ago that I grew up with George Revilla, with my parents actually inculcating in us the love of country. I, for myself, I buy Filipino. I, for myself, I love the rustic, the Filipiniana. I remember my brother, who's already gone, he used to ask me, why are you having all those antique chairs? And I don't want it to be painted. Even my Christmas decor, it's Filipino. Maybe because I grew up in the province. Maybe of the student assistance committee. At that time, I was a Jerry Rojas Leadership Awardee. But how do you influence people for the love of country? How should HR come up with programs? I remember before in Inquirer, when I was the HR director, during the week of the Independence Day, I used to have series of events. For what? To remind people to love what is Filipino. But again, this time, we have earthquakes in the south, floods in the north. How can we show them our love for country? We have to be unified. We have to take care of our fellow men. I again invited our dear friend. I mentioned him already that he took his undergraduate at Ateneo and law in UST. Then he is a friend in the People Management Association of the Philippines. He is now a member of the Board of Trustees of the PIMA Foundation. He is the president of the Ayala Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Ruel Maranan.
Good afternoon, Jesse. It's really
Good
great to
afternoon.
be back.
Yes, because we were not able to, of all that, the conversation was so engaging that we missed a lot of things to share with our
So true.
viewers. with our
So,
viewers.
so
Okay.
to Jesse.
Before we go to that, I I wasn't able to listen to you. You know, I am a very honest person. I wasn't able to go back to the tracks. But you know, Family Kabantak and a lot of those who were there informed me that you had a wonderful presentation yesterday at the Philippine Society for Talent and Development National Convention. Tell us briefly, what
Thank you.
did you share?
Well, actually, I was privileged enough, Jesse, yesterday to be part of this plenary session. And I had my co-panelists from Australia, Duff and Kristen. And, they were sharing about compassion. And for them, compassion in business was the title of their presentation. And as if everything was aligned, because I said my title for my presentation was compassion in action. And their framework actually was again very, very aligned to what we were working on as our framework as well in the foundation. So long story short, I was showing to them that compassion beyond emotions and sharing to the audience, I mean, that compassion is beyond emotions. There could really be a track of framework or a science behind it without losing it in terms of how we live it and how we act on it in our day-to-day roles. And yesterday, I was also highlighting that how we in the Ayala conglomerate, through the Ayala Foundation, really put everything into action as soon as the pandemic happened. And I think I mentioned this before, that the first order of the day was actually to look after our very own employees. Equally important, yeah. We have to really secure them, feel them safe, and to be very candid about it, we had to ensure that they had money or funds because we don't know how long the lockdown was going to be. So we really had to give them their salaries, advance some salaries, and it didn't stop there because we realized the whole ecosystem of the Ayala conglomerate, core employees will be something like 50,000. But then again, the employment opportunities together with our partners would raise up to around 120,000 employments. And therefore, our very own partners, we had to secure them also in terms of our payables, in terms of what is due them. We had to make sure that we really were able to extend them the needed funds during the lockdown. So I think the whole conglomerate was pretty secure in the first week or so. And we know that we were provisioned for a month at the time. But we realized that it didn't start and end within the Ayala conglomerate. We had the communities around us. Not only the customers, literally, but the communities that would be needing help. Because it was really something different for all of us, for obvious reasons. No, this is the first pandemic that hit our generation, unfortunately, and that is the time that our very own principals reached out to the other aligned business people and organizations, who in a matter of less than a week was really able to raise substantial amount to be able to reach out to the communities. And this was an interplay with other foundations like the Philippine Disaster Resiliency Foundation. This was also in partnership with Caritas of Manila. This was also working with the government sector. So in other words, challenging as it is, we were able to really master and harness aligned private sector.
Ruel, I heard from JP or Beta.
Yes.
You have that apps wherein at any given time you can reach out to the Ayala community.
Yes.
What do you call that?
We have the assist app. So any situation, man-made natural situations, natural calamities, the first order of that application is to check how secure you are. So
and these are all And these are all. This is BPI, the Ayala Foundation.
It
These are
cuts
all.
across Ayala group of companies. Cuts across. So that's really the tall order. How safe our employees are, and determine as
Can
well.
they also text that I need help?
Oh, definitely, because as soon as we are able to assess that they are online, meaning they are accounted for, equally important is the needed or the situation and the needed assistance, so
And
that
that is what you're telling us, that when you found out that there is one needing help, then you go to help. And
yes,
is there a task force or is there a team that helps?
yes, actually, we have been divided already into strategic quadrants. No? So we have been divided already. More or less, we would know where we should be grouping ourselves together with our families. May it be for safety, may it be in response to work. No, for example, in Makati, we would know where we would be grouping. No, as a conglomerate. So there are strategic places pre-identified already. And more
Wow.
than the plan, we have been simulating that. We really have scheduled and unscheduled, so that we are primed if and when, of course, similar situations
So
will really
this
happen.
involves not only floods, earthquakes,
Yes,
and whatever. Okay,
yes,
you mentioned about the compassion, and then you went further on action,
yes.
with compassion. I read in the Inquirer the other day about we have to veer away or shy away from that mindset of resilience. Have you read it? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, the article itself, I respect the article, and I think the resilience is a reflection, a reflection towards resilience, that we tend to be resigned to the fact that things will happen the way as it is. I think
Yes,
resilience.
and that is very Filipino, and that is very Catholic, wherein it is a test of faith. So we have to accept it, and then we have to move on, and then accept our faith. So
Yes,
yeah,
but I think that is what I want to pick up, Jesse, because acceptance is a very critical stage in any situation. And I think right after the acceptance is, of course, assessment of what can be done and not done. And that is where I want to bring the discussion. If we will just be looking at what cannot be done, I think nobody is going to be moving anymore because of the humongous challenges that we are facing at
yeah,
all
yes, that's
fronts.
true. That's
But you
true.
see, that is where I am more opportunistic in that sense, because knowing your limitations as an individual or as a group, or depending on the role that you are occupying at this point in time in your career or in your life, then you would know the sphere of influence that you can also master altogether. And that's why in my title of Compassion in Action, while we are aware of the macro situation, I think what went very well for us as Ayala conglomerate is, first and foremost, what can we do within our text of influence or context of our influence. So obviously, it was just proper that we will look at our very own, secure our very people. Because how can we even encourage or challenge our people if they themselves are not the ones secure? Or
Yes,
they don't have. You cannot give what you do not have. So in other words, once they felt, and then this was the beautiful situation that happened, because when our employees in general were covered or taken care of, we had a specific project called Project Pananagutan. And
hmm
this was really an employee initiated project, meaning our very own employees, regardless of the amount, started sharing, because they already felt so blessed that during the lockdown, during this pandemic, they realized that they had more than enough, not only for themselves to work for their families, they started donating or sharing. And these were people whom they knew were no work, no pay. Those people whose families were affected with COVID or suffering with COVID. Those medical frontliners or people who needed much PPEs. People who have been going hungry. So, we just opened the avenue for them to be able to donate. And the rest was history. I mean, I was taken aback with the amount and more than the amount I said. And I felt so good because it was regardless of the amount. The roles of people who were giving, it was just mind-blowing. And actually, Jesse, as we speak right now, it didn't stop there. Because obviously, as you mentioned, we have been experiencing or just suffered a spate of typhoons, no. And again, our project Pananagutan has come alive, and again, the generosity of our employees and their families are again so engaging that they are supportive, no.
Okay, so that leads us to my first question.
Yeah. Sure.
So, how now can people show their love of country at this time?
Well, I just have some practical insights.
Yes.
Number one, we know that there are a lot of people in the affected areas who are needy. But again, I would just appeal to a lot of the kind-hearted people who would want to extend assistance. Please plan it very well. Because if you are really closely monitoring, and fortunately for us, we are closely working on the ground, we have to give proper space on the very people who have been affected. Right now, or as of yesterday, the only way in some areas that can be reached is really by air, and it was only through choppers. So in other words, it's good to get engaged and master all these potential donations. But then again, plan it well so that what you will be extending are those really required by the people. Number one, I think I mentioned this on the last or the earlier session we had. In a lot of areas, they really literally have nothing. So in other words, they cannot even cook their own food. So in other words, you have to course it to the right channels so that by the time it reaches those affected, they are already cooked food. Then the next phase will be as basic as cooking utensils, eating utensils, plates, panluto, it's inundated in a lot of these areas, Jesse. And I had some people on the ground who came back from Bicol, no? And they were just telling me, really, there are no enough words to describe what they saw.
Yeah, that's true.
Houses were built, several houses, dozens of houses along the sea. All of a sudden, you just see, fortunately, if there will still be stilts, to use the term of the locals there, nilamon ng dagat ang mga bahay at ang mga tao. So talagang grabe, no? At while yun ang sinasabi ko, we feel compassionate about it. We cannot just stay in that kind of stage of being compassionate. It has to be translated into action. And to your point, ituloy natin. Marami yung
Right. I'm listening to you.
Yung marami talagang yung mga initiatives kaya nakikita ko sa social media. Maganda po yan. Pero ang lagi kong suggestion, kailangan po may koordinasyon kayo sa lokal para ho hindi kayo dumugin. Kasi kawawa din po yung mga nasa lokal kapag hindi coordinated. Pinagkakaguluhan ho ng mga tao dahil sa tindi ng pangangailangan.
Yeah.
So, yung iba tuloy natatakot. Pero yun nga ho ang kagandahan, kung coordinated kayo, mayroon pong sasalubong sa inyo, may mag-guide sa inyo, may magpupwesto sa inyo sa tamang lugar para ang mga tamang tao na nangangailangan din, we are able to spread the relief properly. Hindi nagdodoble-doble. Pwede hong balikan kapag kayong karamihan na o lahat na nabigyan ng first round, then may second round, so on and so forth. Talaga pong nagkakaharangan. Nangyayari po yan kung na-experience nyo sa ground. Kaya yun din po sa nagbibigay at doon sa mga tatanggap, yun din ho ang pasabi ko, talagang nagtutulong-tulong po ang pamahalaan, ang pribading sektor, ang mga individual para ho talagang makaabot ang tulong sa inyo kung saan man kayong parte ng mga nasalanta. Talaga
this is what you call now, Ruel, your love for your fellow men and love for your country, and this is your call to action will now be your patriotism. It goes beyond, it's selfless already. It's not hindi ka na selfish. Hindi ka selfish.
Totoo yan, Jesse, kasi hindi, alam mo, you really hit it on the head. Hindi na lang to compassion, hindi lang to awa. This is really a call to duty of each and every Filipino.
At wala nang mga puna-puna, wala nang sisihan. And then, and the social media, sometimes I can still see a lot of posts that are really so divisive, diba? And that is not anymore patriotic. Anyway, we'll have a first break, but when we come back, we'll go to the HR. Because I would like really to ask, this is what we did not discuss last time, how can HR develop that sense of patriotism? And then, what are the programs that they can do aside from it? Then I will also ask you, Ruel, I mentioned you last time. I had my nephew as guest. He is the vicar, pastoral vicar of Tobacco Church. And it is a national heritage. And I would like to connect with your a national museum and your heritage library when we come back. So thank you very much, Ruel. When you talk, I am listening to you because there are a lot of insights. We have here Grace Moniz Dicena listening to us, Florent Rebustillo Rances, Maribel O'Malley, they're listening to us. And the co-producer, Apple Manansala, will be happy for this because she would like that almost all the TNC shows will be geared towards or slanted towards public service. And this is it. I'm listening to you. You are giving us guides. You're giving us ideas that even if we are so generous, that we have to really look into what is proper. That is what I gathered from you. So let's have our first break, Director. Welcome back to HR Hotline. You reckon we have that slide of magiting, the one that I sent to you, if you were able to get it? Yes, yes, magiting. Can we have Ruel back?
Yes.
Ruel, this is
Yes.
where we are going to start. Can you tell us about this slide?
Yeah.
There's Ayala Foundation there.
Correct. 2 years ago, Jesse, we really had a rethink of how we want to position ourselves as well. And we felt that one of the basic thrusts that we wanted to go into is the revival of nationalism. I think with all the challenges that we are undergoing as a nation, as both in the private and public sectors, there is one symbol that would really transcend anybody's personal or myopic view. And we felt that looking at the flag, no, we had a firm conviction. If you will look at the flag in its entirety, even the colors as it is, you will be setting aside individual preferences or biases. So what we did after that was that, you know, purposively, we saw that the flag has been something set aside. And we realized that we needed to partner with Department of Education, National Historical Commission of the Philippines, and there's a Philippine flag law. And the thing is, while there is a law, are we really complying with it? Long story short, we've been seeing a lot of tattered flags being hoisted, even in public places, even in schools, no? And when we as NHCP, we were blown away because there was a determined gap of 100,000 flags. And the last time that they had a flag initiative was when we celebrated our centennial celebration for independence. And we felt that while there is such gap, we took that bold step 2 years ago to say, why don't we distribute 10,000 flags nationwide? And so we did. We went into a deliberate roadshow with Department of Education. And again, Department of Education, through the office of Undersecretary Umali, saw the value of this initiative, this program. And they came out with a department order guiding all schools that on the first week or so or two of assumption of classes, there should be a deliberate session in terms of reorienting our students, administration, on the proper usage of the flag. Up to disposal, Jessie, hindi kasi nakikita mo, there was unfortunately an isolated incident, yung bandila pinaglalaroan, ginawang basahan.
Yes.
Hindi po dapat yan kasi simbolo ng ating bayan yan. I always say, I'm not trying to be dramatic here. Marami na pong buhay ang naibuwis at ibinubuwis para itaguyod itong bandila na to na nagsisimbolo para sa ating bayan. Kaya nga, pati nga hunong may pagkakataon, i-share din namin itong programa sa mga kapulisan, sa militar. Alam nyo, sabi nga namin, sa kanila, 2 beses nga lang nila nakikita halos ang bandila kapag sumumpa sila at unfortunately kapag nabuwis na ang buhay nila, nasa ibabaw ng kanilang mga kabaho.
That's an irony. And you know, the new generations, actually, it's not that I am blaming them or I don't know, we were included in that. We lost that already. The appreciation of what it symbolizes. What it symbolizes. Diba? So
actually,
thank you for Ayala Foundation for doing that.
Step 1 lang yan, Jessie. Sabi ko nga, marami pa dapat gawin. Pero alam mo, doon ako natuwa kasi noong inilaunch itong Maging Magiting, hindi dahil successful yung programa. Kasi marami ang mga sektor na uhaw para manumbalik ang nasyonalismo at yung pagmamahal sa bayan. Kasi ang Pilipino naman likas na mapagmahal sa bayan pero napapagod lang. Pero kapag ka nakikita mo nakikita mong may mga kabataan, may mga iba't ibang sektor na ibinabalik ito, bumabalik yung iba yung sigla. Kaya hindi po kami lang ang merong nitong kagagawan, marami pong sektor to.
So what
At
do you suggest that HR should do? What are the,
Well,
because you are with HR before.
yes. Yeah. I think small, medium, big organizations and HR players at that, make it a part of your orientation program. That because there is a journey here before nga, 'di ba? Sasabihin where do you get your salary? Sasabihin from company. Kaya ang inaaway management. Then nag-evolve, where do you get your salaries? From customers, 'di ba? So in other words, ang tanong ngayon, why do you really put up your company? 'Di ba? Kasi in the end, kaya mo ginagawa at gusto mo maging successful para makatulong sa bayan. So that is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to make it connected or reconnect it. Kasi maliit o malaking kumpanya, yan ay nakakatulong sa ekonomiya ng ating kumpanya. Tayo sa HR, malaki ang potential or malaki ang role natin para makalabit at maibalik ang init at yung alab ng pagmamahal natin sa bayan, yung nasyonalismo. Alam mo, sa orientation lang, pag naikonekta mo ang kumpanya mo at ano ang kabuluhan nito sa mas malaking ecosystem ng bansa, the things that our people will do and not do, they would realize that this has an effect to the country.
Yeah, yung contribution. Yung contribution to the entire community, the purpose for the community, di ba? For yourself, for the organization, and for the community. And sometimes that is missed in our onboarding sessions.
Spot on ka dyan, Jesse, when you say purpose. Di ba, sabi ko nga, the generation now, as we would categorize them, they are purposeful generation. The tangible comes secondary to them because for them, they are looking. And for a lot of multi-generations, we're looking. Sequential lang Minsan ako, orientation tayo noon na, sige, tangible muna, build up, tapos give back. But the generation now, I appreciate and I really admire them because what they are looking for is what is the purpose of the organization that they are joining. And then consequentially it comes, of course, the practical side is also important, pero they look for the purpose. And that is what we are trying to now rekindle and offer, not only in Ayala Foundation, but actually in the whole conglomerate and hopefully beyond Ayala conglomerate. This is what we're appealing to everyone, both private sector and public sector, and individuals at that.
That simple mantra of buy local is it will have a very big impact right now if you start buying local so that the economy will bounce back.
Yun nga sinasabi ko nung natatandaan ko na we wanted to be global, which is fine. Diba sabi, think global, act local. I think for me, I always think that way. It's always good to benchmark from a global perspective, but ask ourselves, what is actually the compelling needs in the local level? Because before you know it, it is very tempting because we are so learned, we are so exposed. Without us knowing, we tend to impose to the communities. Jesse, yun nga lagi ko sinasabi. Maraming gustong tumulong, pero pagputulong mo, ibibigay mo yung gusto mo. How many of us, and this is really something to reflect on, paused and even took the time to ask the local, ano po ba ang kailangan nyo? Ano ba po talaga, sa dami ng pangailangan nyo, ano po ba yung pinakakailangan nyo para titingnan po natin kung pwede tayong magtulong? I think that is a point in the whole process of compassion in action, which I am emphasizing. Let us take time. Biro nyo nangangailangan na pamumukain nyo pang parang mga pulubi. Sabihin na natin pulubi na nga yung iba. Pagkatapos pamumukha mo pa, where is respect? Where is dignity in the whole process? Yun po ang gusto ko lang paalala sa lahat ng gusto at wagas na tumulong. Huwag po nating kalimutan yung dignidad sa pagtulong at sa tinutulungan. Napakahalaga po kasi sira na po ang kanilang pamumuhay, ang kanilang tirahan, nawala na sila. Tapos pati ba naman yung konting dignidad, ipagkakait pa natin. So, yun lang po ang lagi kong apila sa gustong tumulong. Bigyan po natin at huwag nating kalimutan na bigay pa rin yung dignidad sa mga tinutulungan natin.
You know, I'm listening to you, especially now, we are talking about patriotism, love of country, love of fellow man. So there goes the difference between generosity or charity, then your empathy, then your compassion. Tell her your thoughts. Nasaan yung sinasabi mo na it has to be proper? Nasaan doon? Sa generosity, sa empathy, o sa compassion?
No, actually, doon sa lahat na binanggit mo, kasi ang dadagdagan ko siguro, yun nga yung ine-emphasize ko, magkaroon tayo nung step na magtanong naman tayo. Kasi mas maganda yung nabibigyan mo ng respeto kahit magbibigay ka, kasi sila ang nakakaalam kung ano ang tunay na pangangailangan. At tayong nagbibigay, we can assess as well. So that, ito nga yung isang reflection ko, Jessie. How many of us yung sinasabing nag-experience ng donor fatigue?
Of course, ang dami na.
Marami, no? Kasi,
I for one, oo na.
Oo, pero Jessie, alam mo, may gamot dyan. At ang gamot, simple lang. Hindi ka magkakaroon ng fatigue kung ang ibinigay mo ay yun ang tunay na pangangailangan nung humihingi o nangangailangan.
That's true.
Kasi mararamdaman mo eh. And you're not asking anything for return, but you will experience it. Now, kahit yung tinulungan mo, yun yung sinasabi kong if you are able to give them that dignity, you're not doling out per se. You are now also, if they are ready at a certain point in time to stand up, and they should stand up on their own legs, then you can now teach them how to be on their own. It's not mendicancy culture. Tutulungan natin at a certain point, but they have to help themselves, and that is why challenging or even engaging the community to define their compelling needs will be necessary so that the determination of suitable need or suitable solutions will also come from them. May taya sila, Jessie. Hindi pwedeng tayo lang na nagbibigay ang may taya.
Ang listening to you right now, they need food, pero siguro later on, what they need are yung para sa bahay siguro. Kasi basic needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually,
diba? Food, clothing, shelter. In that order. Food, clothing, shelter.
At kabuhayan. Diba?
Yeah.
Yun nga sinasabi, Jessie, wag na tayong magpakomplika ng usapan at yung mga investigasyon na mangyayari, no? Alam mo, kung yung area na ilang beses nang tinamaan, sabihin natin sa Marikina, magtatayo ka lang ulit ng bahay doon, hihintayin mo lang ulit yung susunod na malakas na ulan at daloy ng tubig, may inundate sila ulit. So ano talaga, palagay ko alam na ng mga kinauukulan ang tamang kasagutan. Siguro ang tanong natin, do we have now the will to really implement the right solutions?
Mapapalayo tayo. I have a copy of Architect Palafox. Correct?
Yes,
yes. That was around 3 decades ago. And there is, in that document, it says that that area of Marikina, dapat wala dyan, wala dyan mga bahay.
Well, of course, it's true on one side, but then again, ako, simple ang pananaw ko dyan. If it's a complicated. No, I do not have the right solution to all these situations. It's complicated as it is. But the simple way for me to answer it first on a principle base, we already have all those data. What
Yeah.
can be done? What are the low-hanging fruits that can be done so that we can gradually or incrementally decrease those who will be affected? Diba? Kasi sa akin, yun ang mahalaga kasi hindi naman masusolusyonan to ng overnight dahil hindi rin nangyari ang problema overnight. Diba? But at least ma-decrease. Ang nakakalungkot, Jessie, habang nangyayari itong mga unod, dumadami pa rin ang naapektuhan. Parang hindi tayo natuto.
Yeah.
Diba? So, yun ang nakakalungkot. So, babalik ako. Doon po tayo sa may kakayahan tayo na makapag-provide ng solusyon. No?
Right. And then these are the basic needs. Food, clothing, and shelter.
Yeah. So, sa akin, kung gusto nila mag-imbestiga, gawin nila yan. Pero sa akin muna, maraming nagugutom. Maraming kailangang makarating sa mga hospital para marapatan ng tamang lunas. Yun ang siguro pagtulong-tulungan. Tapos kapag stable na doon sa mga affected areas, nasa kanila na yon kung talagang makaka-add value yung kanilang investigation at may mapatunayang dapat managot, nasa kanila yan, may batas tayo, may due process tayo, then let it happen, di ba? But sa akin, let's focus in the private sector. I'll go back. What we are doing and really spending much of our time and resources, where could we be of help and value? Subject to the locals and communities who are also open to be helped. Kasi Jessie, it takes two to tango eh. Kailangan bukas yung nangangailangan at kami rin may kakayahan. No? So if both will be aligned, then I think that is a very good point of synergy, a point of resolution, a point of moving forward. No? Hopefully improving lives. But it takes so much stakeholders.
May point din ako kung isa pa, Ruel. You know, there are times that I cringe to see other people still post of parties and other things despite the situation of our fellow men. Yung talagang sometimes sabi ko, yung sabi, I was sitting you about respect, about sensitivity. Yung sensitivity, yung may mga areas wherein they were not affected. Of course, they still have to celebrate the things. But if you, nakikita ko yan kasi I have a vast community in my Facebook. Nakakatuwa ang mga post, a party, a date, a picture of somebody asking for a post that you're so beautiful, then death, mad, then ask for help. So sabi ko, what are your thoughts on that? Kasi we're talking about yung sensitivity and sense of love.
I think, Jessie, that's the exact word that you mentioned, sensitivity. We're not depriving anyone to be happy. Each one has its own way of coping with happiness, especially during these pandemic times. But I think this is where sensitivity comes in as a person. If you have it, do you need to flaunt it? I mean, if you have it, probably if you're sensitive enough and you feel that moral obligation to help, then I'm sure it will go a long way. For me, I know that each and every one would have their own ways to help, no? And I don't want to be judgmental or be construed to be judgmental. But the thing is it really the time to be showing that you are fortunate or you're blessed? Or is it also better that you could be a blessing to others by sharing in your own terms and ways? Diba? So, walang cookie cutter siya eh. Pero, palagay ko, ito yung panahon. Alam mo, minsan sabi ko nga do we still think about it if we have a choice to help or not? Palagay ko, the mere fact that those who have been spared of being affected, we should be very grateful and thankful. And I always have this saying, and I'm sure you share this, Jessie. Ako kasi, I always tell my wife and my family and my relatives, mabuti na yung tumulong ka kesa ikaw yung humingi ng tulong. Kasi Jessie,
True.
I've experienced it to be on the other side. Naranasan kong maghirap. So, sinasabi ko sa sarili ko, everything now that I have or little I have is already a blessing. And anything in excess has to go back to the others who would be in need. Kasi mas mahirap, at sabi ko, pinagdadasal ko, wag sana maranasan ng mga tao na nandun ka kasi mas napakahirap, mapalad lang ako that, everything really pan out well. So for me, in ways that I could be of help, not merely on tangible aspects, I don't mind. I don't mind. You give and share. Diba? At ako naman, diretso ko, kung hindi ko kaya, the best that I could do is say, teka, tingnan natin, baka meron akong kakilalang makatulong sa inyo, subukan natin. Kasi that is also the other thing I would like to remind people. Kapag may nangangailangan, huwag nyo na pong paasahin. Mas mabuti pong marinig kahit masakit na hindi na matutulungan kaysa umaasa sa wala.
Right.
I say that through experience, Jessie, no? Tapos, ang pakiusap ko naman sa mga humihingi ng tulong, be patient enough. Kasi minsan, yung hinihingan nyo ng tulong, may proseso at mayroon ding mga ibang taong nilalapitan. Kaya wag din po kayong mainipin at sana wag kayong magalit kapag nakarinig kayo ng hindi pabor o sigun sa pamamaraan na gusto nyong matulungan.
Right.
So, paalala lang rin sa humihingi ng tulong at sa tumutulong. But in the end, mas mapalad kang tumutulong kaysa sa humihingi ng tulong. Kaya, wag ka na mag-isip, kaibigan. Tumulong ka na. Mas maganda yung ikaw nag-aabot kaysa ikaw yung nakabukas ang palad at
It's very insightful. You know, at this time, I would like to mention that Pipi Bong Austero is watching us. My cousin Donald is watching us. Apple Manansala, Grace Mones Decena, Maricor Militante is watching us and listening to you. Now, again, Ruel, ang nauubos nating oras. I have a question before we have the second break, and then I'll have another question before you do your parting message. I mentioned about Tobacco Church that was actually at roof. So it is a heritage site. What can the Ayala Foundation? I know that the National Commission is already there. Pero ano ang yung heritage library ba ninyo or something?
Filipinas Heritage Library. Actually, Jesse, we have a very close coordination with National Historical Commission of the Philippines, no? And heritage sites like this really goes through their office. Si Chairman Escalante is actually very active, no? Before the typhoon, and unfortunately, he will be doing his rounds, seeing the devastation caused to the heritage site.
That is actually my question. Kasi those areas that were really inundated, flooded, may mga ano dyan may mga historical sites.
Correct. So we had an experience working in the corridors of Iloilo. You'd remember during the earthquake.
Yes,
we partnered when some of the churches are being rehabilitated. We partnered with another foundation called Escuela Taller. Used to be headed by Dr. G. Milaya. We actually trained locals to become artisans, no? Jesse, yung nakita mo na yung mga ginagawang mga ornate designs, yun ang mga itinuro sa kanila. So, given that process or approach, probably we can do the same for those who have been affected once they're ready. There are templates, there are processes that have been done that prove to be successful enough. And that is where we can empower the community members to once again regain the opportunity not only of livelihood, but the dignity lost in terms of their infrastructures, and they as a person, no? Mabibigyan mo talaga sila ng pagkakataong makabangon. Na sama-sama muli sila sa komunidad nila. So we can touch base with this
earthquakes,
organization.
floods, fires, sometimes it's actually nadi-destroy yung sense of identity mo.
It's true. It's true. But then again, when we put this up or bring back, no, hindi ko sinasabing the good old glory days. It has to be the new glory days. Parang ngayon, hindi na ito abnormal. It has to be a better normal. Diba? So we have that capacity, we have that opportunity. Now we just have to act on it. That's where I'll pause for you.
Okay, so let's have the second break, and then after that, one more question and your parting message. Can we have the second break, please? Let's have as quick as possible the things that we show to the viewers on HR Hotline's job fair. On Thursday, there will be a the episode will be dedicated for job fair. But we'll have it on Thursday. But I'm also endorsing other events. Can we have those? Yung job fair natin, we'll have that on Thursday. Can we pass on that first, please? Correct? Can we have the other events, please? The next one, please. Yes. This is the second day of the National Convention of PSTD, the Digitalent. If you can still catch up, why don't you? Then we have the next one. It's I have a webinar on assessing remote and virtual energy programs with PIMA. Also, the next one is yes, Believe Belong. Actually, I was taking it while I was doing my show. It's ASEA. You can contact Maricor Militante or Julia Robilos. The contact numbers are there. Oh, it's nice. I really feel energetic and a little change in what I feel taking this supplement. Okay, so let's go back to Ruel. Ruel, I have here the features of patriotism, which is autonomy, national identity, self-determination, and solidarity. Just give us a thought of any one of those features of patriotism.
Well, actually, it's a very compassing. It's not really a choice, Jesse, right now. No? But I think I have a very practical appeal, setting aside the terminologies. Number one, we know our rights as citizens. We know our duties as citizens. We have our roles. and I will focus on us being HR practitioners. Ask ourselves, is it clear enough that we know our responsibilities? Is it clear enough that at the end of the day, the reckoning, we are held accountable for it? In other words, when you are in HR, do you just hire a talent, or you have an objective to make the talent really a successful, high-performing talent for the organization and beyond? Similarly, when there are learnings, are your learnings canned learnings, or these are relevant learnings that could make your talents and your organization truly relevant for the needs of our country? So, if an HR practitioner can rightfully look at themselves beyond the boardroom, that they are able to really perform and deliver, of course, it goes without saying, with the proper support of your respective management and staff within your organizations, then you are surely able to respond to the call of nationalism. It is actually you performing or living your very being as a person and as a professional. And for me, at the start and end of the day, and this is what I shared in PSTV session, Ayala has stayed there for 186 years. And more than the years, I think what became constant for us is really our core values. All the rest could be set aside. All the rest could be unlearned. All the rest can be learned. But the core values will subsist. I hope that you HR practitioners are both the role models of the values of your respective organizations, which are very much aligned to your personal core values. Because at the start and end of the day, we are HR practitioners. We are actually given the privilege to manage and really to help transform and make people better, not comparing themselves to others, but really making the best of what they are, who they are, in their own respective capacities. So, I hope, Jesse, that our session really goes beyond and could really permeate, no? That as an HR practitioner, you are gifted actually with so much opportunities to instill not only nationalism, but really to create good talents who are professionally and personally astute and of value not only to the organization, but to our very own country. So again, walang maliit na kumpanya, walang malaki. Bawat isa sa atin may pagkakataon, may oportunidad. Sana gamitin natin. Panawagan ko sa inyo, may kakayahan kayo. Gamitin nyo and be consistent. No? There are so many plans already. I encourage you. Also have bias for action because I always say, we have so much thoughts in our mind. And if these thoughts are not translated into action, they are just figment of your imagination. But if they are put into action, then probably you came out with an idea, and that idea could continuously be improved by other stakeholders working with you and aligning with your idea. And before you know it, your idea has snowballed, and it will now benefit more people than what you thought of. So again, fellow HR practitioners, this is both an appeal and a challenge to all of you. And to my brother Jesse here, your program really, is a good venue to be learning from each other, no? And I hope that you will continue this together with your partners to really reach out, not only to HR practitioners, but to all managers who would want to become leaders. And you are leaders in your own rights, no? Hindi po kailangan kayo maging presidente para maging leader kayo. Bawat isa po sa atin ay leader. Kailangan lang po pag-aralan, pag-usayin, hasain natin, matuto tayo para maging mahusay tayong leader sa tamang pamamaraan, sa isip, sa salita, at sa gawa.
Wow. Thank you very much, Ruel Maranan. Salamat po, Diyos Mabalos. It's so inspiring. You know what is nice with this live streaming? Because we can share it later on. And I will place a postscript. You have to view and watch the last portion. Your speech, your little speech at the last portion. That's why I was listening to you. I don't want to cut you. It can be shared to all HR that right. Your sense of nationalism is actually doing your role, being an influencer, acting your role as somebody. You start with your organization, making sure that your people are really trained and be a contributing citizen, a proper citizen of this country. They contribute to the community, and that will have a better Philippines. I was listening to you, Ruben. Such insight. We'll have to have a few break, but you will be back, Ruel, maybe after a month or two. But the insights, because you know, it's a conversation. It's just like a tertulia during the time of Rizal, wherein you just have a storyline, but it is not scripted. And then this is what I like because I am getting from you what comes from your heart. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. And you know, this is also a role of influencing people, our little role. People who can listen to us and may have some time to ponder, and then it can change and make a dent into their lives. Thank you very much, Ruel. Thank you very much to everybody who are viewing and who will be listening to us later on. Diyos mabalos po, ito po si Jesse Rebustillo.